It really gives you an appreciation when you have to consume legal services, and you're dealing with somebody that gives you advice, often that you don't want to hear, but does it in a way that is always thoughtful and incredibly intelligent and human. And Pat just has this way about her that is very kind and gentle, and yet she will go to war when she has to go to war. And when you have Pat Brannon fighting for you, you can sleep at night, because you know that there will not be anything that ought to happen that won't happen. A fierce advocate and really just a model. And I'm going to let Pat come up and say a few words, but one of the things we tried to gather, a little bit of color on Pat, because we all know soul probity. But we did suss out that actually she's a regular attendee at the Grammy Awards, and she's not wearing it tonight, but she has a Grammy gown, a red carpet gown. And, so I urge everybody to tune into the Grammys when they're going to be broadcast, I guess on Sunday night. You'll see our Pat Brannon there. But we could talk about Pat, literally for hours. All the things she's done to help really everybody in this room at some point or another just work through a hard issue. And as I said, the thing I always appreciate about Pat is the ability to deliver hard news, something you don't want to hear, in a way that makes you feel that she wished you didn't have to do it. But that somehow makes it easier. So I'd like to ask Pat to come up and say a few words. Pat.
Thank you so much, Steve. I've made it a practice over the years to come to this reception anytime I possibly can, because I've always found it really interesting to hear what people say when they look back, sometimes on decades of work, and they have just a few minutes to encapsulate it. And it's a milestone to leave the partnership. I've always wondered what I would say when I got up here. And now that I've had 3 weeks to think about very little else, and those of you who know me will understand this, that my sole objective is to get through this without crying. So there is a lot that I cannot say here. I can't even look at my family. Pasted me back together every Friday night for decades, gave me decent food, let me sleep, took me out in the sun, gave me art experiences, and brought me back up to go back in on Monday morning. And I really can't talk about what it's meant to be a partner here, because partner is the highest honor we have. We are the owners. And there isn't a schlocky television script that gets a kid from a firefighter's kid, a girl in the 1970s, from Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, to this moment. So you'll just have to, those of you who have been my partners over those 30 years, just know that it's all in my heart, but I can't quite say it. So instead, I'm going to do 4 big thank yous, and then in my last minute, I'm going to tell you everything I learned as general counsel. Thank you, number 1. I stumbled into Washington in 1979 and here in 1980, and these are the 5 people who took me under their wing and taught me how to be a litigator. John Farron, David Tatel, Alan Snyder, Joe Hassett, and Austin Midler. No one has ever been more fortunate in their life in their mentors and teachers. They were hard on me, they made me think, they taught me to write, how to ask hard questions, and they're all still so involved that they have been part of truly helpful conversations about this transition. I'm eternally grateful to them. Thank you, number 2, the clients, the clients, the clients. We are nothing and we are nowhere without the clients who come to us. From the Kansas City and Milwaukee and Indianapolis school boards to Shard Tefillah Congregation and John Ferguson, they trusted the great teams that I was honored to be part of to be their voice to courts and to adversaries. It was wonderful work, but looking back on it all, it's the trust that I'll always really hold dear. Thank you number 3 again takes me back to the clients. I want to say a thank you to Hogan Lovells US LLP as my client, my last big client of my last 6 years. But on my way to doing that, I have to single out Warren, another place I can't look. In 2004, Warren gave me the best legal job in town, the partner in charge of Hogan and Hartson's Community Service Department. And then in 2011, he asked me to take the other job. The other job was hard, and there were some really rough days. But I never had to worry about one of the hardest things the lawyers face, which is whether my client would take my advice when it was hard to take. I always knew that even if it wasn't convenient, even if it wasn't what they wanted to hear, that they were going to do the hard thing and they were going to do the right thing. That's leadership from the top. That came from Warren, that has continued with Steve, and it has continued with the whole management team that I'm so pleased are here tonight to hear this. I can't thank you enough for being that kind of a client, and that so often you had more confidence in me, frankly, than I had in myself. Thank you number 4 is for the great team that I have been privileged to work with for the past 6 years. Thank you, Francis LeGrice, for your directness, your humor, for being the other half of my brain and working tirelessly without concern about who gets the credit. And here's another place I can't look, but I can say this. This is now the best general counsel's office in any law firm in the world. Do what they tell you and no one gets hurt. Now, what did I learn as your GC? Sometimes when things really did get hard, I had to do little exercises in my mind to kind of get me through the day or get me through the week or get me back in again. And one of the things I started to do about a year ago is to distill in the smallest number of words I possibly could everything that I had learned as general counsel. Thought by now I ought to be able to do that. 20 words or less was the goal, and I'm down to 19. 4 things there too. Number 1, last day before law school. If you could remember the last day before law school and the person you were then and the goals you went in with and you stayed true to those, you will never go wrong. Number 2, your mother is watching. You are never not observed anymore in this world. Just think of it as your mother and it's a little bit kinder. Your eyes are on you all the time. Number 3, do one thing. When the day seems impossible, just do one thing. It can be the tiniest thing. It can be filing a single email, but just do one thing to start getting it under control. And it's amazing how the next step comes and the next step and the one after that. And finally, there is always time to be kind. Thank you. Keep changing lives. You changed mine, and I will always be grateful to you.
Thanks, Pat. I'd next like to recognize Ed Dolan, who